All right, so another organelle video. This one's all about cytoskeleton. And the cytoskeleton literally means cell skeleton. So if you think about what your skeleton does for you, including your muscles, because in this case, it's more like the cytoskeletal-muscular system, what their skeleton does for them is what our bones and muscles do for us. And so it provides support, it provides motility or movement, and it also helps regulate some biochemical activities. And it is generally made of a bunch of different proteins interlocked together to make really strong structures. So there are three types. There are microtubules, which are made of a protein called tubulin. These are the biggest ones, and they provide most of the shape and support to the cell. They also are tracks, and I want you to think like a railroad track. So tracks for organelle movement. So organelles do move around the cell, and they don't generally do it by just floating around. They generally are moved on these tracks around the cell. This is also what's going to be responsible for forming those spindle fibers in mitosis and meiosis. They are a part of cilia and flagella, which we'll talk about in just a minute. Microfilaments are also a protein, but a different one, actin, which you've heard of before with muscles. They are the littlest of them, and they are going to do some support for the cell, but on a much smaller scale. So little tiny support here, support there, but not supporting the whole cell. They also allow for cell movement. So when amoebas move, and you should Google that and find a video, it's really kind of cool. They kind of stick out their little arms and kind of, I don't know, ooze around. Also cytoplasmic streaming, which was in, I think, the Nearpod video. It's somewhere. There's a cytoplasmic streaming video, but you can also Google that or YouTube that. And then muscle cell contraction. So all of those types of movements within the cell are due to microfilaments. And then intermediate fibers, if these are the biggest and these are the smallest, these are the ones in the middle. They are permanently fixed in the cell, and they help the cell maintain shape. They also, for organelles that are not moving, they are how those organelles are anchored in the cell. Here's just some pictures so you can see big, small, medium. All right, so let's look at some different types. What's the centrosome? The centrosome is made of the centrioles and the region around it. Plants don't have centrioles, but they do have a structure that allows them to attach to the spindle fibers and pull them apart. But if you'll notice, the centrioles are made of microtubule triplets. So 3 microtubules hooked together, and then those are repeated around and around and around. And so that's the centrioles structure. They are going to bind or attach to other microtubules and pull them in or push, build them out away from the centrosome. So they're going to build them out towards the chromosomes during metaphase, and then they're going to kind of reel them back in. Cilia and flagella. Cilia or flagella, we'll start with them. They are long, and cells generally only have one or a few, if any, and they are used for movement to propel something forward. So think about like the motor on a boat. They're going to push it forward. They are in a 9+2 arrangement, so they have 2 in the center. The cilia are the same. That's why I'm talking about them, pointing to this picture of cilia. And then 9 sets of doublets or twins, 2 microtubules hooked together, surrounding those 2 in the center. They generally have a whip-like motion. And probably the most famous flagella is the one on sperm. Cilia are short, and there's a bunch of them, and they beat generally together in motion. They are used to move the cell. If it's a unicellular organism like a paramecium, they will be used to move that. But in our bodies, we use them to move fluids. So a lot of our mucous membranes are covered in cilia. So your trachea, your nasal passages, places like that, they have a lot of cilia, and they're just going to keep moving that mucus in hopes that any bacteria in there will get moved along with the mucus, and it won't be able to embed into your cells and make you sick. We also see them in fallopian tubes, or what we're now calling oviducts, to move the egg from the ovary to the uterus. So that's their job, is to move things kind of along, or to, if it's a single cellular organism, they can actually be used for locomotion as well. And they do have that 9+2 pattern of microtubules. And that is it. I hope that helped. If you have any other questions, let me know.